Lovely. Hello and welcome to Simon on the Google Hangout with Marc Itzler. And for you who are new to this, or this is your first Simon on the Sofa Hangout, then welcome. If you're somebody that's come and joined us because you're continuing the flow of these conversations, then welcome to you as well. And the Simon on the Sofa Google Hangouts are really a way of me now connecting with people all around the world, as opposed to just doing it live when we're on the sofa. So I'm not actually sat on a sofa, if anybody's asking. I'm actually on a chair in the kitchen. I'm on a chair in the kitchen, but don't worry, don't let those things bother you. It's all semantics. So I'm with a wonderful man today. As always, everyone I actually speak to is wonderful because we're all just wonderful, divine manifestations of life force. How could we not be wonderful? However, I like to follow my path, and it brings me to wonderful people. I met Marc actually through just the virtual platforms. We met and we connected through LinkedIn, shared some dialogue, and then I've been, he's been one of the people that I've wanted to have a conversation with for quite some time. Also, just want to say before we begin, these conversations are never really planned. So if you're new to the way that I bring a conversation to you, I show up, I see what's coming and happening in the moment, and the beautiful guests that come and sit with me are also happy to do that, and then we see where the journey takes us. There's many conversations I've recorded now, so please do enjoy and see which ones resonate with you, and yeah, and just enjoy the flow of where the conversation takes us. So yeah, welcome, and welcome Marc. Thank you for that little musical intro.
You're most welcome, Simon.
So yeah, Marc asked me a moment ago if there was any particular way that we were going, and the first answer that I said to him was, well, I'm sure that it'd be around love and truth. I know that Marc recently wrote a wonderful post around communicating truth, and my passion is how to support others and how I can continue living a path of transparent communication and exploring what really truthful communication means. So depending on whether you want to go down that route straight away, Marc, I mean, it might be lovely also just to share a little backstory, if you feel like, of where how you come to be here, sat with me today, and playing some music. I don't know if whatever feels right. What comes up for you with what I've just shared?
I suppose it makes sense just to perhaps have a little background. It does kind of tie in a little bit with the post that you mentioned, because it was about something that I've been, I suppose, an understanding of truth in the context of communication, because truth is one thing. I have, I experience it as something that when it's said to you, you recognize it as the case. It's a definition of truth. But what I wrote about was how we communicate truth. In other words, how truth, a bit like money, is kind of neutral, and it's kind of, we can use it for good or bad. Truth can be used to hurt somebody. And that's what I wrote about in that particular blog post, was about the intention behind honesty, and why, when we either sort of relieving ourselves of guilt and shame, and it can be at the expense of others. And there's, as I said also in the article, a school of thought that believes that being authentic above and beyond everything to yourself is the only way to live an honest life. And I attempted that and discovered that actually what could often happen is that while being authentic to yourself, you could actually lose authenticity to your relationships, to the way you communicate to the people who you love. It's not just about being honest. It's about knowing why and what your motivations are, what's behind your desire to be honest. So that's kind of what it comes down to. So the question, back in 1979, when I was living in India, my family went and my mum got involved. A very quick backstory. My mother got involved when we left South Africa in the early 70s due to really not feeling okay with the political situation there. So we moved to London. It was a very happening scene. Hampstead in the 70s was the place to be. It was great. And very quickly after we arrived here, my mother actually got connected through a naturopath to a form of meditation called dynamic meditation. which she was diagnosed. She was told to go and use that as a way to help her with her asthma. So she went along to this little center down in Marylebone, and she started doing this crazy meditation, which involved heavy breathing and jumping up and down and freaking out. And she did it for a few weeks, and she started noticing that there was a guy kind of featuring on pictures on the walls, and she was like, "Who is this guy?" And people listed his name is Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, Indian mystic. Anyway, so she found herself sitting in front of his picture one day after having done the meditation, and she just said, very, as she describes it, it just came out of her. She says, "I want to become a sannyasin," which means become a devotee of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. So this is in 1972, and she did. She took on a mala and started wearing the red clothes and became a devotee of Bhagwan, who then became Osho. So I was exposed to that at a very early age. That was the experience of someone in my family becoming a seeker, devoting their life to the inner, was there when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And then I kind of asked out of the blue once. I said, "Is that something I could do? Could I become a sannyasin?" She said, "I don't know. We'll find out. Let's find out." So she asked, and they said, "Well, apparently, yes. If you send a letter and a photograph, you can become a sannyasin." I said, "Let's do it. Okay, I'd like a new name. That'd be quite cool, because you get a new name and you get a mala, little sort of beaded necklace." And a few weeks later, I get a letter back from India saying, "This is your new name, Swami Prem Divakar." Swami is the male prefix. Prem means love, and Divakar means light in Sanskrit, sunlight, sunshine. So that was my name, Sunshine of Love. That was the name given to me by Osho. So we got more and more involved in it. Eventually started living in communes in England, and then eventually in 1979 we actually left and went to the ashram in Pune. And I spent the years of my life, which were 15, 16, 17, living in a community of approximately 8,000 people. This was it was like a suburb. It was huge. The complex itself, the ashram itself, was like a large suburban block full of beautiful, big, colonial terraced houses. These with palm-lined driveways, and this tropical kind of sort of historical experience. And then in amongst this was these crazy 7, 8, 9,000 red-clad crazy people, all following this enlightened mystic. So I spent 3 years in India living in that environment, which was obviously formed a lot of who I am today, a lot of understanding, and the relationships that I developed with people my age, 15, 16, 17, at the time was a very unique kind of way of relating for people of this age. It's like we kind of got a really good head start in what you would call transparent communication, being really open, being very real with each other, being very honest. And if you can imagine being it's a bit like sannyasins. One of the main things about being around Osho was responsibility. If you have stuff come up inside you, the first thing you do is own it. The first thing you do is realize it's yours. You don't evacuate or blame or jump on someone else and say, "You've made me unhappy." You own you own what's coming up for you. So living in this environment with a group of thousands of people who all had that commitment was a very interesting experience, because it did away with a lot of age and generational issues. I remember having fantastic relationships with elderly people, men and women, with kids younger than me, people my age, people in their 30s and 40s. And the generational thing just was nullified. It was completely void. It just wasn't there anymore. You could have any kind of relationship you wanted with anyone of any age. And I had deep connections with young friends who were like 9, 10 years old, just loving, just people so loving to see each other. Guys, where would you see a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old who just really love each other? Two guys just really have a lovely little guy Sid. I'd put him up on my shoulders and carry him down the street, and there was a bonding. And I had other people who were in their 50s and 60s. We just had a bond. So what happened was you were able to connect very quickly to the human being behind the labels, because we were all in the same space. We were all in the same we all looked the same, and we were all it was just a very powerful experience. So in those communications, in the way that I dealt with people, honesty and ownership was a major theme. That if someone was feeling upset, they'd say, rather than saying, "You hurt my feelings," they would say, "Ouch," or "That really is bringing up pain for me." It would reframe it so that people owned it. All good and well, but there were still people who were being hurt by people. I could still see people in pain, people who were dealing with jealousy, people who were dealing with envy, people who were dealing with all kinds of stuff. It didn't just go away. And it struck me as like, well, how do we live in this completely owning, honest, upfront, authentic way, and at the same time take care of each other, take care of another person's feelings? I don't like seeing someone feeling upset or hurt. I don't like it. So eventually I said, I've got to ask this question. So I asked the question. I said, how do we stay true to ourselves and our honesty, but at the same time be sensitive and loving and caring to other people?
Yeah.
And as it says in the article, the response was, as I just said before, which was the kind of ethos of the whole community, which is that this stuff is your stuff. When you feel pain, understand that it has generated within your insecurities, generated within your sense of not enough. And what you're doing is trying to feel better by evacuating, by getting angry with somebody, by being offended or hurt or whatever it comes up as. So I asked the question, and that was the answer, was, you know, basically it's you be true to yourself, you be selfish, not in the sense of not caring, but caring for yourself first. So that was it. And then I tried to kind of take that on board and say, now, okay, so how do I know if my being honest is for the higher good of everyone concerned, or if it's actually just me venting kind of in a passive aggressive way, just like, you know, hey, I just think you need to know this. Yeah, I need to put this out to you because it's really important that I clear it with you and that we're clear with that. And often I saw people just being destroyed by that kind of honesty, and I thought, well, that's bullshit. That's not honesty. That's not authentic behavior. That's manipulative. That's using truth to manipulate. That's using truth and honesty as a weapon. So that came up for me, and so that I felt I wanted to write about that, and that's kind of where that article came from. So the work in progress is that I discovered that every time I decide I need to be honest and open with somebody, I first check in as to what is it that I'm looking for as an intention, as an outcome. What do I want here? Do I want that person to be diminished? Do I want them to be expanded? Do I want our relationship to be deepened? And I'm prepared to prick that boil and you know, get rid of all that hot stuff and let a deeper connection arise. And that was really, yeah, so that's how that connected. My background really connects to the idea of clear honesty first internally, internal honesty first, then expressive honesty. That's the kind of, yeah, that's what's behind
that. Beautiful. My favorite word when I have these conversations, because it's always so relevant and, you know, and on the point, and it's lovely to just hear your experience, really, just your experience of authenticity and being, you know, being almost put into that, you know, like you say, that environment of 8,000 or more people, you know, in which I found quite amazing, like 8,000 more people in like an ashram, but there's streets and there's houses and there's like these big houses and everyone there, you know. I haven't had an image of that before, so just picturing that of that scope of how many people are really coming together from that space is really interesting. And like you said, it can bring up everything. It's going to bring up everything anyway, like life does, you know, with jealousy, envy, and all the other things you mentioned. I think listening to you, I can totally see as well, like where at times on my path of communicating transparently, how it's been, you know, out of aligned and come from that place of maybe being a little bit more about me. And you said a beautiful thing. It's like what's the I wrote it down actually, just because you were sharing a lot, and I know I would forget a few things, but you said about really what's your intention and what's your purpose and what's your reason, isn't it, of why are you speaking truth right now? Why am I choosing to be transparent and share myself openly and transparently? You know, what's at the root of that? What's at the core? And I think that's a really powerful sort of stop point before you start to actually embark on communication, isn't it? Like just to take that moment and check in and ask that. I think that's a really powerful moment to breathe, to stop and go, okay, I'm about to have this dialogue, I'm about to share this, and even if you can then communicate why, that almost enables you to lay up a nicer foundation for the person then to receive this. And I think that coming to that point is great for you to, if you could speak to that, that'd be lovely, Mark, because it'd be lovely to know since then, because that was, you know, a few years ago, how you sort of laid the foundation to then communicate what you're feeling, or make the decision to go, you know what, I don't need to communicate this, for example.
Well, yeah, absolutely. As I said, it's an internal check-in, as you say. You basically, there's an example recently of a good friend of mine who, you know, I had to call her on something around parenting, in the way that I was not able to deal with. I was setting up a boundary in order. Basically, I was saying, this is not okay for me. I'm not prepared to have this happen. And experience this, because it invades my space. It is not okay for me, and I choose to not have it around me. It was something that triggered her, made her feel very upset. I suppose she felt judged and thought, and her response was, "How thoughtless and cruel of you to say such a thing." Mm. And I had to go to the mirror afterwards, and I had to look in the mirror, and I had to look and just say, "Are you clean? Are you clean in why you communicated this? What was your reason?" And the reason clearly was because that boil needed pricking. It needed to be brought up and needed to be dealt with, because it was actually causing an inauthenticity in the relationship. In other words, I was sucking it up. I was staying quiet. Yeah. I was keeping my thoughts and my opinions to myself. And what was happening was I could feel resentment was starting to build. Yeah. So I thought, well, there will come a point where I say something in a way that is coming out of my resentment. That's going to be, and that will be mean. It will be spiteful. It could happen. And so in order to not let that happen, it's important that I did this in a context of kindness, and in the context of just being straight, just being real, and just being straight. And she did say, you know, that's, you know, you've got to think before you say things like this to people. And I thought to myself, well, yes, you're right, and I did. And this is where I said it with an intention to take off a layer of the relationship that was not serving its potential. That's the best way I can describe it. So it didn't get met very well, and since then the communication between us has stopped. And I didn't, prior to being honest about it, I didn't consider the possibility that it would be taken in such a way that I would lose the relationship. Yeah. But isn't it interesting in how the next thing that comes along informs us so much about whether or not we are operating from our true selves? The fact that I will start to look at the relationship, well, actually, what was that relationship all about? What was I actually, if I was happy to be going through in that way, and I was starting to build resentment stuff, what was I even doing there? What was why was I even showing up? And actually realized, actually, you know, I can take it or leave it in this particular relationship. That's how it's been, and I've enjoyed it. But if on the basis of my new truth, it no longer is going to be, it's not acceptable to the other person, so be it. And that's the consequence. We have to be ready. It's very much around parenting as well. One of the greatest gifts is to be ready to lose the love of your children.
Wow, that's
a very powerful thing. It is, because there's another article I wrote in WordPress about this, the difference between expectation and aspiration, is that you can raise your children with expectation. In other words, you become the child and demand that they fulfill your needs and be all that they can be so that you look good to your parents. Yeah. Or you can be aspiration, which is you can wish the best, you can support, love, encourage, do all the things that you want to do, but understand that it may not work out the way you hoped. They may suffer, they may become ill, they may not be able to be self-reliant, there may be issues. So it's having an aspiration without the expectation, so that you really are there for the child. And it was very important to be able to communicate to a child and to other adults in such a way so that, you know, that remains my truth. But it's
And you mean, sorry, just to drop in there, you mean, and this is like based, because you're a father, right? You have two children or one child?
I have two sons, 20 and 22. I have a 28-year-old stepdaughter and a 3-year-old step-granddaughter. Okay. So I kind of started parenting, you know, when I took on my then wife and her daughter at 4 years old. Started off as parenting. But the thing is that there's a whole idea around that either we have to mold our kids to fit in, as I was saying, that we have expectation, but there's also an alternative parenting mentality, an alternative ethos, which is very much about being friends with your parents, with your kids.
Yeah, beautiful.
and that they have your friendship with them. And although there is an element of that which is important, and I do have a friendship with my kids, but it's not like the friendship they have with their peers. It's very different, and it's very important for me to know that, for them to know that that is a different kind of relationship. There is a dynamic. I am their dad, and it's just really important that I am ready in order to be totally real with them, in order to maintain boundaries. Because when you become friends with your kids, and this is one of the problems actually in this relationship I was just describing, what it was actually like was that this child was just running amok, and the mother was not dealing with it. The child was abusing the mother. This kid was a boundary hunter. I call these kids boundary hunters. They go looking for a boundary because they're not being given one, and they will go and they will find one, and they will keep screaming, shouting, breaking stuff, causing mayhem until someone says, that's enough. So that was the issue that came up. I just thought, I don't want your son around me with this particular environment, and it was a problem. But in the same way that I had to be ready to lose her friendship, I had to didn't want to, but I had to be ready for that as a consequence, because people are entitled to get upset. Yeah. And I have to respect if they get upset. I know it's their stuff, but it's real. It is their stuff. It's really real. They really are hurting. Yeah. It's not like get over it. It's like, I get it. You're in pain. I understand that, and something I said triggered that. So fine. When it comes to parenting, I have a very strong understanding that for me, that to have a friendship with your kids can be a problem. There has to be, first and foremost, there has to be ownership of your role, that you're a parent, you're a guide, you're a mentor, and only when you're ready to lose the love of your kids can you actually give them the boundaries. I have found, in my experience, I have had to be ready to lose their love in order to give them boundaries, to say that's not okay, or you cannot speak to me like that, or I'm not going to let you do that. And a lot of parents have, especially what I would call alternative parents, have a real fear about losing the love of their kids. And I think it might have something to do with, this is just off the top of my head now, that there is so many more single parents now that I think form types of elements of the relationship they form with their kids become a bit strange, because it's no longer just the parent. They need the friendship of their child because they don't have the relationship. So the child starts having to perform some of the relationship duties for a single mother or a single father.
Right.
And I think that is where it's important that as parents, as you know, as the lifeguards around the pool while the kids are splashing in the pool, we have to remain as lifeguards, and we have to be there. And it's that time of life where you move into a place of service. It's no longer I, it's us or we. Yeah. And so that, I think it's very important that, for me, authentic behavior in terms of parenting is even more crucial. So that,
yeah, totally. Sorry, I don't know if I cut you short there. Carry on. I'm just agreeing and listening, and also my mind is ticking with just the clarity in that, really, from a parent's perspective, and also what you're saying about expectations and being expectational and aspirational, isn't it? That shift between that. But I want to also just backtrack a little bit, and just for people watching and obviously anyone that comes to watch this back, is just to really touch on that space of what you said, because this come up actually. I know that originally you replied to a thread, you posted that lovely article on the thread that I was doing around authentic, transparent relationships and communicating my truth about what recently happened with a long-term, beautiful friend as well that I'd been journeying with for 6 years in my relationship.
Yeah.
And you know, you really touched on something there about how you was talking about how even back in the, you know, from the teaching of that it's your stuff, it is your stuff, and it's not personal to the other person. However, the other person is clearly hurting, and at the time you can't having the awareness to realize that hurting, and even though from a bigger perspective, you know, there's that opportunity to, like you said, look at your stuff and check in and go, wow, there's a layer there that needed to be dissolved in the relationship. And I'm very clear that needed to dissolve, and even in hindsight and looking and listening to you talk, I'm also clear that the way that I delivered my truth this time again had a level of maybe a little bit of a level of lack of seeing Anna in this case, seeing the other person. and what that was going to create. But then also, in hindsight now, 6 months on, seeing that, you know, it all had to happen the way it had to happen for me to even look deeper at the layers that come up for me. But me, it's so funny you're talking and saying that you've lost the relationship at the moment. Well, I have too, because also I'm not speaking to this to Anna. So it's really interesting that you can speak your truth, but at times, depending on how it lands, other people are not going to see that perspective that you're seeing it from. And I suppose that for me, I'm like you. I think you said a moment ago, you said that you don't want to see somebody else hurt. You don't want to see people in pain. You don't want to, you don't want to, especially no matter what, you don't want to see people you love and you've been with, whether it's family, friends, or whatever, But then also you have to have that boundary and detachment. And I think that's been really hard for me this time. And to look at myself and say, wow, what's that bringing up for me in terms of, need for connection, having the boundaries to communicate upfront and authentically, and also how to deliver that. So I just wanted to touch on that and just highlight that, and then we can move also into what you wonderfully said about that, really the losing the love of your kids. Well, you also, when you're speaking your truth, you're losing the love of the other person. So there's a sense that you're losing something. But then also, when you're actually coming from that pure place of self-love, and you know that that's going to benefit yourself and the other ultimately, then there is actually no loss of love. Do you want to? What comes up for you from there?
I've just left a 22-year marriage 2 years ago. Well, it's coming up to 18 months, so I've separated from my wife, soon to be ex-wife, and there was a mantra running around in my head, genuinely, and is that what had happened in the relationship meant that the only thing left for me, the only responsibility I felt able to take, was to end the relationship. There was nothing left. There was no other way to fix it other than to stop trying to fix it, if you understand what I mean. Is that there was no way I was going to fix this relationship. There's no way I could fix this person. Although I tried for decades to make it all right, to do the best I can, clearly I failed. I didn't manage to love this woman in the way she wanted to be loved, and I have to accept that, whether or not I judge that as her misunderstanding how wonderfully loving I am, or not being clear about the fact that I may be not as loving as I think I am. It's kind of irrelevant. The point is that I, in the end, felt there is nothing left for me to do here except we are leaning on each other, and we're not strong because of it. We're becoming weak because of the way we are inclining in towards each other. We're too merged, and this is not serving us. So the mantra that came out when I left and said, we're not, I don't intend to continue living with you, when the kids came of age and stuff, the mantra going around my head was, this is an act of love. This is an act of love. What I'm doing is an act of love. And in my particular situation, in this situation, we have an idea. There are flowers and pretty things around the word love. That is somehow, love is nice, love is kind, love is sweet, love is pure, love is gentle, love doesn't hurt. There is nothing to do with pain in love. Obviously, now we know vulnerability and love are two sides of the same coin. It's a package, as Binay Bray says. If you want the joy, you're going to have to take.
Yeah. You got to deal with it and take the lot, or be off with you.
There's no love without pain, and that's the reality of life, and it's a wonderful reality. And sometimes that pain is excruciatingly, exquisitely beautiful. But there is also, it's very easy to say an act of love can also be a cop-out. It can also be said, this is, I couldn't hack it anymore. I couldn't stand it anymore. I was just angry. I was frustrated, and I wanted out. And instead of saying I escaped because I wasn't up to the job, I might be saying I enacted an act of love. I ended this relationship because I thought it would serve us both. In my case, I do firmly believe within myself that actually it was an act of love, but when to the other person it seems like an act of cruelty. Both those realities are valid. Both those realities exist. And if a person feels like, she said to me, how could you do this to me? How could you abandon me like this? And I could repeat all the reasons why to her. That's the content of the story, but it's not really the point. The point was, as to the best of my understanding, the way to save myself, the way to save her, was to say, we stop leaning now on our own 2 feet. And, you know, it's been an amazing 18 months of solitude. I have had no interest whatsoever in finding a new relationship or intimacy at this time. It's not been. I've been working on my work. I've been working on myself. I've been meditating. I've been going to the gym. So I'm working my here now muscle. I'm working my physical muscles.
Nice.
Just preparing myself for next. And I don't know what's coming next, but I don't feel any pressure to dive into intimacy at this time. I leave that in the hands of God. When that's time for that to happen, it will happen. Right now, it feels, you know, there's recovery, there's healing, you know, and there will be a time where we can communicate, as you were saying with Anna. There'll probably be a time where you will be able to communicate as friends, but these things take time.
Yeah.
Yes, so I have had a full experience of having to get very real in my communication with people, and to do it in a way that holds on to my integrity. This is the thing.
Yeah.
This is the thing also says in the article, is integrity is in our actions. Integrity isn't in how we put ourselves out to the world. Like, I'm a really honest person. That's you know, that's the Richard Nixon kind of integrity. I don't mean that. I mean the kind of integrity which is, when you end a relationship, I was speaking to a lot of people who had been divorced and stuff like this while I was still in the relationship, and I was kind of seeking some kinds of counsel. And people said, and I said to a lot of people, how did you end the relationship? And a lot of people said, well, I had an affair. I went, oh, okay. And actually, you know, when I was in therapy at the time and stuff, and my therapist, he said, yeah, a lot of people do that. It's called an exit affair, where they basically engineer such a situation, which is not acting with integrity, because you're hiding stuff, you're keeping secrets, you're trying to hold on to a commitment that isn't from your heart, and you know, you're, I don't know, falling in love with 2 people, whatever. That's something that for me would lack integrity. So it was very important to me that if I'm going to end this relationship, I have to end it in the hardest, nastiest possible way, which is absolutely out of context. No major row to engineer it, no affair to engineer it, no crisis. Literally like, good morning, I've got to talk to you. I don't want to spend the rest of my life with you. And that was just kind of, in some way, you know, she was kind of like, she didn't get it for a while, because it was kind of like, because it wasn't, I didn't use those strategies. I didn't use a strategy of an affair.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, just because I don't have the effort. I'm really amazed at guys who have affairs. I think it must take such effort to keep all those secrets, to run that whole I have enough trouble just running an honest, authentic life. I thought, how am I going to run a secret life? I couldn't possibly be, couldn't face it. And it wasn't the way I wanted to do it anyway. So I had to do this in a way that is, in the most raw, painful way, because there was no kind of, you know, you could call it, like, I suppose, like a kind of, you can ride on anger, or you can ride on frustration, or you can ride on the indignation of some major event that causes the end of a relationship. But this had nothing like that. It was like calm, relaxed. This is not going to continue. We're not happy. You know, you're not happy. You're destroying yourself. I'm destroying myself. This is not right. Anyway, so that was a very powerful experience, and I spent the last 18 months processing that.
Yeah, that's a key point, though, isn't it? I'll just talk to that, if that's okay. It's just that process, because it's man, I love is how each conversation that I have on the sofa is always this opportunity to just, you know, I suppose from a little bit of I know that people benefit, and we've got live viewers and so on, and I so hope that anybody that finds this, it will be perfect for them, and it always is. But it's so rich for me, because it feels something so much more. I set off on this journey in 2007 or 2008, and it really went on a bit of a quest for truth, as I think I might have told you before. Yeah. And each conversation, I never really see this as a business or, you know, out there. It was actually my answer to, like, what is truth and what is love, and I need to speak to people to find out, you know, what is truth and love, and who am I, and, you know, and I just went, like, met one person after another, and every single time I met somebody, it's like, obviously gave me an opportunity to inquire into myself, and, you know, whether it be somebody talking about consciousness or love or unconditional love or truth or angels, or, you know, the collective consciousness, pain body, you know, it's just like it's been this deep inquiry. And as you're talking, I'm like, this is so, you know, out of everybody that come to the sofa right now to sit and have a conversation, you've come and you've got this, I'm just getting this, you know, magical mirror of somebody who's gone through, 22 years, and we're, I know yours was 18 months ago, but it's almost like what you're talking about is so, bang on point of where I am, and it's, that process that I'm having to go through, where I do feel it was an act of love, and I tried to. We both were consciously having what I call a conscious, transparent relationship, and we'd spoken to each other calmly a few times when we'd parted, and then this time we did it again, and we knew we needed to part, and we sort of both agreed that, look, you need to move out, we need to have this, and I think what was happening is, based on maybe a little bit of, like you said, that leaning on each other, and a little bit of maybe codependency, and a little bit of having expectations on each other crept in, and we were losing the connection. And I think what happened, Mark, is that based on us thinking that, or me thinking, or even the unconscious thinking that it's going to repeat the cycle of, like, we separate for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, and then we get back together, and then is anything changed? And hoping that it has, but I basically then met a mutual friend, and we connected, and we started connecting, and there was this deep connection, and I thought, wow, here's somebody I'm connecting with, and we seem to be getting on really well, and then now there's attraction. So then I communicated that to Anna and to the third party, the woman involved, and then had to have that calm conversation and share that, oh, I'm now thinking of exploring this connection with our friend, and that was like the ultimate, that just brought up so much, and what happened is, not only did that bring up so much, you're saying there's this, like, people have these affairs as exit strategies, which is what I did in my relationship, or I cheated on my past relationship, 8 years ago.
Right.
And so what's really interesting is that when you're saying that people have these exit affairs or things, I'm also thinking, like, I can sort of see why people do it, because when you try to do it calmly, and you try to do it real, and you try to do it where everyone can sort of maybe not get harmed, and you can sort of try to have the communication. Well, in my only experience at the moment, that still brings up pain. So like you said earlier, I don't know, with the vulnerability and with the love, I don't know if there's any way of a parting or a separation happening, depending on who two people are. And I mean, maybe there's, more of, I don't want to say more evolved, but, two people might be genuinely in a place where they can go, right, okay, this isn't working. We can both see it's not working. We can both see that we want to be more than what we're showing up like. Then maybe there's an opportunity. But for me, I realise now, 6 months on, that what Anna wanted and what I wanted and what we both wanted to be also wasn't possible until we both seemed to go through this process that we're going through now. Can you see that? It's kind of like, psychologically mad.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yeah, in essence, when people, I would say, from my experience now, if that people were to separate in crisis, the basic strategy is this. It's that I need to disattach from you. So what I need from you is your worst side. What I need to see of you mostly is the shit. I need to see your anger. I need to see all the reasons why I'm leaving you all the time in front of my face. So I'm going to engineer an event that makes sure that you're triggered, that you've got plenty of cortisol rushing around your body, that you're angry, that you're accusing me, that you're saying that you're being everything I am leaving.
Wow.
To have the courage to actually leave somebody while you're being your best to each other, that's far more difficult, far more painful, to actually then, because you miss the person a lot.
Yeah.
I still miss. However, I miss the good stuff.
Yeah.
This thing about returning back, that illusion that somehow a couple of weeks or a couple of months or even a year or something is going to, like, oh, I've had a big shift. I see what I was doing in the relationship. It's not happening. This kind of stuff takes decades. On a good decade. If
you're not instilling me with any support now. I was thinking I had some quite good revelations and feeling into that sadness and so on, and now you're saying it's going to be a decade. God damn it, Mark.
What I'm saying is that if you separate from somebody while you're showing each other your best sides, it's going to be more painful.
Yeah.
Now, I separated from a relationship with someone I'd been with from the age of 15. We met in Until the age of 23, 23 or 24 or something. It was about 10 years. And we realized we were moving in separate directions. So we separated, but we kind of weaned ourselves off each other. Do you know how it is? Sometimes it takes a few months, popping out, popping back, popping up, popping back. But when we finally separated, it was in 1990 in December, and I took her to the airport, and she got on a plane, and I came back to the communal house I was living in. Everyone was like, how are you? You all right? And I'm going, yeah, actually, I'm fine. And they're going, oh, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. You're not feeling it now because you're in shock, but you're going to feel it. Inside, I knew I wasn't going to feel it. I knew I'd processed perfectly well with this woman because we were conscious, because of where we'd grown up together in this incredible space, this Buddha field. That ownership was just there. It was just the modus operandi. We're going to come to this, and I'm going to bring my stuff. It's mine. You bring in your stuff. It's yours, and we're going to deal with it together. So it doesn't mean that there isn't shit flying between you. It doesn't mean that, you know, because part of what attracts us to people is also their shit, you know, their drama, their intensity. You know, there's something very sexy about a very passionate, freaking woman, and there's, you know, it's there's something there. There's something to work with. It's passionate. It's good.
Yeah. There's a mirror like that's worth like being a part of, because it stimulates you, doesn't it? And gives you makes you feel alive.
Yes, and that separating in that is still separating. We're seeing the best of each other, even if it's conflictive, even if there may be a bit of, well, I won't call it violence, but sometimes it's confrontation. You know, that the marriage, my 22-year marriage, was not an easy marriage. And I say that with enormous gratitude because easy marriages kill people.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on. So the growth that I had to go through in this marriage, because it was tumultuous, it was stormy, but it was passionate. You know, I never stopped fancying it right up, and I still do. You know, there was you know, a physical attraction, still physical attraction, and beyond and above all that, and all the drama and all the intensity and all the kind of vivaciousness of the woman that I was with, there was something underneath that you could see. The trend was destructive. The trend was breaking down. But to say that separating from that place of seeing the best of each other doesn't just mean seeing the niceness of each other. It means seeing the best of the passion, best of the energy, best of the I don't know, you know, just everything.
Well, best of the challenge, isn't it? It's like best of the. I mean, sometimes it's not until you leave a relationship that you start to actually see also, like, rather than fall into what you said about, oh, looking at the crap and going, oh, this blame and this, and it's not. I don't see any of that. I actually see, since this 6 months that I've been going through, it's kind of powerful, because I'm, like you just said, I'm actually seeing the richness in all of it. It's kind of like, there's not even anything to point to and go, oh, that I don't want to like that. That was crap. Oh, that's a reason to leave. Does that make sense? It's
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this thing about saying that I will now go into the next relationship, sort of, now I'm educated. Now I know what I don't want from a woman. All that stuff about, I say now, you know, that somehow that we keep going back into relationships to learn the same lesson.
Right.
That's one school of thought, that people think that, and that is probably true. But there's also a sense that if we are going to evolve in this particular lifespan, in this particular incarnation, we are looking for healthier relationships, right? But that's a very vague term. That's a very subjective term, what a healthier relationship is, because I might find that I say connect with a woman and I notice all the things about her that are not like my ex-wife. Oh, she doesn't do that. She doesn't do that. She doesn't do. Thank God, I won't have to deal with that kind of issue. I won't have to deal with that. This is going to be so much easier.
Yeah.
And what's coming to me now is actually that's also a misunderstanding of the situation, and it's again trying to kind of this idea of trying to engineer the perfect life, when I have the perfect job, when I have the perfect career, when I have the perfect purpose, when I'm giving my gift to the world, and I have this perfect woman and this perfect relationship in my life, everything's going to be amazing and it's going to be easy. And that's I think is
bullshit.
I think that is a massive living delusion amongst a lot of people I know.
Yeah. But also, even if you speak to that whole idea of what perfection means, I mean, we just said, didn't we, right now, that if there's any perfection, it's in the so-called imperfection, which is a judgment that there's anything imperfect anyway. And actually, ultimately, you know, even with everything you've shared today from your experience and what I've been sharing, is We're talking about really how do we integrate, show up, and feel all of that. You know, feel all of it, feel into it, feel what it experiences, and like, you know, the vulnerability is that access point of love. You know, and also, you know, integrity in our actions you mentioned, and I think that, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, I don't know, because you've been 18 months on your own in a bit of solitude, and I've not been in full solitude, but I've definitely been spending a hell of a lot of time on my own, on the yoga mat, in, you know, exercising, and really just being with myself, you know, wherever I've been journeying. And, you know, I've obviously been with Anna, you know, for a long time, most of the time hanging out, you know, so you all of a sudden have that gap, that void, that space. But ultimately, it is, as challenging as it feels, you know, I've been on this quest of self-love, or realized that, you know, when you love yourself fully, you fall in love with the planet, and you have this connection to something that's actually beyond words that, you know, nobody can really point to. And what it's even shown me this last 6 months is like, wow, you know, all paths seem to lead to self-love. They're pointing you back. Now, I know you was doing this when you was 15, but they're pointing you back inside. Is that what you've been feeling? I know you said you've been going on the meditation and so on, but it seems that it's always pointing you back inside to find that resolve, to find that love, to find that solidarity, to find that sovereignty, etc. What comes up for you?
Yeah, what comes up for me is the phrase "being with it."
Yeah,
just being with it. So I haven't I haven't had in my head, this is my healing time, or this is my recovery time, or this is, you know, I could create all kinds of scenarios in my head, like this is the time where I'm preparing for the new thing in my life. Or so, I don't know about all that. I don't know about the future. I don't know who will, or if anyone will ever come into my life with whom I feel I want that kind of connection with. It may happen, it may not. I kind of toyed with the idea of, well, maybe I need to kind of go out there and put myself out a bit. If I'm missing cuddles and missing intimacy and missing physical contact, go out and make it happen. And I kind of like started doing that, and I kind of went on a dating site, and I just thought like, this is ridiculous. This is like, so all these people, they're just, you know, laying out what they're looking for, and at the end of every word says, in the end, it's down to whether we have chemistry or not.
yeah,
Yeah, that's true. So then why are we even doing this? Because the way people meet is inadvertently. We meet inadvertently. We find ourselves talking to someone. We find ourselves laughing at something they said. We hear them laughing at something we've said.
yeah.
We say something, and, oh, I know, don't you? And you have this connection, and you suddenly, and what happens is, the electricity starts to charge, and chemistry starts to happen. So
The explosion, isn't it? Sorry, carry on.
To engineer that kind of event, in a way, by a very definition of trying to make it happen, it won't happen. It's not going to happen, because you need to not be on intention. You need to just be like present, just like I'm talking to you. I'm having, you know, I'm at a party, or I'm where I'm socializing, or I'm at a drum circle, and, you know, I'm drumming with someone, and we catch each other's eye, and we start drumming together, and then we start chatting afterwards. That's how these things work, and that's how I want it to work.
Yeah, totally. It's not orchestrated. It's not orchestrated, and sometimes carry on. Anyway, I like this, because it's talking about the collective, about dating sites and so on, and this need that the human has for connection, but doesn't allow the natural alchemical explosion. But carry on.
Yeah. So I was just saying that this period of time hasn't been. I haven't wanted to see it as a time of preparation for when things come back together in my life. This is now my life. This is now my life. I now live. I don't even use the word single. I am, you know, I end at the end of my skin. This is me. At the end of my aura or energy field, whatever, I am complete. So I am now living on my own decisions, on my own time frame, on my own schedule. I'm designing and planning my life as an individual. And for me, that feels as a prerequisite. It just, you know, for anybody. And to do that in a relationship takes enormous skill and enormous alertness and attentiveness to, you know, and what is this, the Khalil Gibran, this let the winds of whatever dance between you, like two birds flying, so that, you know, you when in the art of relationship is to interrelate but not to merge and become, you know, like codependent or feeling incomplete without the other. It's a great inspiration.
Yeah, but the Gibran was the one that the poem that many of friends that I speak to and lovers that I've had ultimately, many people read that at their wedding, right? It's the ultimate one about two beings being being like strong. How does he describe it? I need to learn this
Something to
damn
do
poem.
with birds and the wind.
Yeah, no, yeah, but it's also about being two pillars, and not eating from the same loaf and not drinking from the same cup. And people even read that at their weddings, and ultimately they just fall into a needy, dependent, codependent relationship, which is based on that now I'm married to you, I own you in some way, and you need to fulfill me and make me happy. And what's wonderful is, as you're speaking, I'm buzzing because that's what I've always said, is that can two people come together as complete beings where, as you were speaking, you said, yeah, forget about whether I'm single or not single, in a relationship or not. You're actually enough. You're just as you are right now. You're just enough as you are, and that from that place where we realize that we're enough and we don't need another to fulfill us, from that space, that is where you can, or I like to feel that you can then start to have an experience with another, and actually beyond, like, I don't know if you've had this, but whenever somebody asks you, they're like, oh, how are you? And the minute you might say, oh, I'm not with this person again or whatever, people instantly react. It's like a common society indoctrination that they instantly react like it's bad. It's like, that's not right. Or, and then it's like, oh, so are you single now? You're not, or oh, I'm polyamorous, or I'm not polyamorous. It's like all of these damn brackets of relationship. It's like ultimately, like you just said, you're having an experience. I'm here, be here now. This is who I am. I'm having an experience. But I suppose we need these damn brackets to fit into, society's, boxes.
Well, people around us want to know where our threads are going. What's our connection? Where do you plug in? How do I plug into you? Yeah. So if you if a single woman meets you, she needs to know, how do we, are you in a relationship, and it's, we always have these clever little conversations where we talk about our lives and give away all the little clues without being blatant about it.
Yeah.
But we're attempting to at the old telephone exchange, we're attempting to plug ourselves into the right little, pull the plug out and plug ourselves into the right. So that's our connection. So that's how we connect, right? Yeah. And then a guy will come along, and maybe you're at a jam session, and someone will come and say, oh, you in a band, or you working, and what's your connections, how are you connected to the world? And we sometimes, as you just said, we miss the person because we're so interested in their interrelatedness to everyone else. And that's when we say, and that's when we also experience exactly the same thing. People say, I said, yeah, I'm separated now. They go, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Oh, it hasn't worked out. And I said to them, no, don't be sorry. Be happy. I said, and they said, yeah, but kids, broken relationship, broken home. I said, it was broken. Now it's fixed. This is fixed. This is not broken. This is fixed now. Now I'm working. People say, but didn't you want to work on the relationship? I said, this is me working on the relationship. It doesn't always mean you're with the person while you're working on the relationship. Because I have been working. The last 6 months I've worked on my relationship to my wife more than in the previous 10 years. The fact that we're not together made that possible. And yes, the relationship is over, but the relationship as an entity, which was always, as far as I was concerned, third on the list. In fact, fourth on the list. First was me, then her, then the kids, then the relationship or the marriage. It's an entity. It's an agreement. It doesn't deserve the same status as a human being.
And also just to throw in there with that as well is that this whole idea that, this whole idea, I don't see it so much now in the circles I'm in because, I've changed a lot, but I know that there's this whole idea around you're in this loving relationship, you're having this amazing experience, you're growing, learning, and so on. And if you move beyond the boxes and the labels, that love, that pure love, that energy, that life force, that you experience, it's not part-time, or it's not separate. You don't just leave and go, oh, well, now I'm not with you. Now we're not together. Now we're not in some sort of controlled agreement.
Yes.
I don't love you anymore. I hear people say that. Oh, I loved you. I loved him. I loved him for 5 years. I don't love him anymore. How can you not? Love doesn't know, part-time, not part-time. Love isn't temporary. Love isn't, just, oh, it's only for 7 years. I still love everyone that had an intimate experience with? How can you not love them? They're like maybe a small handful of beautiful beings on this planet out of the 7 billion that I've actually spent a long chunks of my life with. How can you just all of a sudden go, well, I don't love them? That's just ludicrous, no?
I think what it is that perhaps the definition of what they felt while they were with the person was the misunderstanding, because I've had people say, but I love you. I want to be with you because I love you. And what I came to realize is what they actually call, what is often termed as love, is actually, I love having you. It's not I love you, it's I love being with you. I love what you bring to my life. But that's not loving somebody. That's different to love. That's a preference. It's something that is, I would rather have you in my life than not, because what you bring to my life makes me feel good. And often people think that is love, but it's not. It's just a preference.
Well, it's conditional, and also that brings in the aspect of condition, isn't it? So it's conditional. It brings in the aspect of, while we're together, while we're doing this, and while I'm receiving something or getting something that serves me in some way, then I love you. But based on a condition, if we're either not together, or you're not being a certain way, or you're not showing up in the way that I want, then I don't love you. And that's the very, I mean, we could talk on that for hours, I'm sure, even people listening. That's such a many layers of what love means, and also different people's interpretation of love in a relationship as well, isn't it? I mean, we could probably speak to that for hours as well. It's like, is there, and actually thinking about it, if we think that love is giving us an opportunity to really ask us who we are, or sorry, relationships giving us an opportunity for us to see ourselves, ask who we are, what we want, what we're not, who we are, what we want, what we're not, and then from that place taking authentic or decisions with integrity. If I don't know, if I see relationship like that, then there's a great I suppose opportunity when two people come together. But again, you have to come together with somebody who's also of that, I suppose, that same sort of that same sort of perspective, isn't it?
Hopefully. I think a good headline distinction when it comes to love and relationships is to make a clear distinction between sexual intimacy, or just intimacy in itself, because you can be intimate with your kids, but I'm saying specifically sexual intimacy, because for me, so I kind of try to see love as a field. It's like a field. It's like it's not something that is laid out like money in a cash machine that you then dispense out to certain people and go, okay, you can have that much love, you can have that much love. If you are being loving, anyone who walks into that field is going to feel your love. That's all good and well, but this idea of I can't love more than one person, be in love. So in love is, for me, the definition of sexual intimacy. In other words, I can love everybody around me and be in a state of lovingness. And whoever comes into that field can experience, enjoy, and feel that love, but that should not be confused with sexual intimacy, which is something that, for my personal taste, is something I would need to work on a one-to-one basis. I'm not the sort of person who can have that kind of relationship with lots of different people. Totally. I don't seem to have the. I'm not drawn to it. I don't find it attractive as a proposal. So so that's, I think, very important, that people feel that when they're in love with somebody, they're basically just in that intimacy agreement, that we are saying that this is exclusive to others, simply so that we can develop trust, we can develop an understanding, we can develop a clearer experience of each other as beings in this space. But I don't know how much it has to do with love, because I have unconditional love for my kids, and I always know whether my love is unconditional because I just ask myself, would I give up my life for this person? And as a parent, I can tell you the one thing that any parent knows is that they would gladly hand their life over for the life of their child. Think about that as a personal disidentification, how fundamental that is. And if someone says to me, really, if you were hanging off a cliff and it was you or your son, you knew that if you saved your son, you were to die, would you do it? I said, without hesitation. Without hesitation. And it feels so real and true inside me. And to have that That is unconditional love, to understand that you would give up your very experience of life for another. How can they do anything to you ever that could make you not love them? As you were saying, how can you stop loving somebody? So it's exactly what you're saying, this thing about that, how can you stop loving somebody? You can't, because you still exist and you still have a field of love emanating from you. And I just think it's important that when we enter into partnerships, we understand that we're not taking some of that love and focusing it as a special bit of love. The intimacy is a different story. It has nothing to do with love.
It's like a it's just another aspect of human connection, another experience that happens in love. Like many things happen in that field of love, you know, and that's one of the things. And like you said, then that is actually almost a separate agreement within itself, where, like you just said, okay, I'm a monogamous person and I want to have this experience with you, or I'm, you know, I want to be having whatever it is, multiple partners or whatever else somebody wants. So again, it coming back to that, which is beautiful. We're sort of full circle, because we're coming back to what it really means to communicate authentically, because we've spoken a lot about different layers of perspective and the way that maybe people interpret love, and how we've both personally experienced some intimacy and relationship. And actually it comes back round to, how you're communicating what it is that you want in a relationship. And I mean, this whole talk's been around relationship, which is, we didn't plan that, but it's really rich, because and how do you own that, communicate from that place, and you mentioned in the beginning as well, just around having these boundaries within yourself of this is where I'm at, this is what this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm communicating at this time. I don't know if that feels like a more conscious, authentic way of being, not necessarily easy. And like you said, it's not about trying to mold or control some perfect ideal of a relationship, because you're still going to get every aspect within the experience. But I mean, I suppose what I'm trying to point to is that I really feel, Mark, that there's a new way of being as we're evolving as humanity. There's a new way of being in communion, in relationship. And you was doing it maybe when you was 15. It's not maybe a new concept that I'm pointing to, but it just feels that so many relationships, mine, everyone I meet out there, they're quite dysfunctional. They're not communicating authentically. The intimacy is not really there. They're staying in it based on like dependency, or, oh, you know what, it's okay, oh, she will change, oh, well, we've got a mortgage together, and oh, the children, I'm really there for the children, I wouldn't want to part for the children, and the list, I could go on and on and on, Part of me just feels that that's not people showing up authentically. That's, not to judge that, but just as an observation. It's like, how can individuals really feel confident within themselves to go, oh, okay, this isn't working. So anyway, that's my little summary.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think I hear what you're saying, and I've also just been experiencing so much dysfunction or just dissatisfaction, or a lot of people separating, a lot of people not happy in relationships. I do see that a lot as well, and it strikes me as though how we're trying to find ways to relate, trying to find ways to be authentic with people, trying to find ways to connect in love with other people, and I think that this new thing that is emerging is starting first in the mirror, starting first with ourselves, and developing a relationship. What I've done over the last 18 months is I've been developing my relationship with myself. I've been working on the relationship I have to myself. And that just isn't self-inquiry. It's actually starting to question the conversations I'm having, the way I'm starting to become aware of how I talk to myself, things I say to myself when I look in the mirror, things I say to myself when I don't get something done on time. So I'm starting to say, oh my God, how can I don't really like, I think I want to separate from myself. Actually, sometimes you get the sense like, I don't actually enjoy living with myself. I think I might not. and I think ultimately that may be some people who get to such a state like that they just check out, you know.
Yeah.
They go mad, or they kill themselves, or do whatever they do, or dive into drugs or sex or seminars or whatever it is that people do to avoid the void of pain. You know, they basically will throw themselves into something to stay away from that empty reality that actually they don't really enjoy being with themselves.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's like, I mean, boom, we're talking now about just the depths of unworthiness, that suicide, you know, 3,000 or more people commit suicide every day. It's like, you know, the amount of people that are numb and desensitized, that are pondering, you know, self-harm, self-abuse, bulimia, you know, anorexia, you know, I mean, we could go like into the multitude of sort of dissatisfaction, you know, dissatisfaction with the self. I mean, you know, you're touching on the deeper wound of what, you know, many of us go through, and even people that I've you know, worked with throughout the years on, you know, one-to-ones and so on, is that, you know, and my own wounds, of course, is that ultimately there's that just that unworthiness, that not liking the self, right? For whatever reason, from, you know, such a young age, just not liking the self.
No one ever asks themselves, do you get on with yourself?
Yeah.
You actually get on with yourself. Do you like your company? Do you actually, when you're on your own, do you like the way you speak to you? If you spoke to yourself, if someone else spoke to you in the way that you speak to yourself, would you have a friendship with that person?
Yeah.
Very important to know what, you know, what people call self-talk, you know, but that, you know, there's something of trying to get some distance from the mind. You know, that's one of the points of meditation, to become more witnessing of one's own thoughts. And so what that brings up is the first thing I need to do is make sure that I really enjoy my relationship with myself, that I have found a way, and it doesn't have to be perfect, just like any kind of relationship with another human being. It doesn't have to be perfect. There are points there I'm going to piss myself off sometimes. You know,
I piss myself off every day, I think.
Yeah, and you will often say to yourself, what the hell are you doing? What kind
Yeah.
of, why did you do that? Why did you say that? And you'll say, well, it's just the way I felt. Well, you didn't have to say it. And you can have all these sort of conversations where yourself is criticizing yourself, and it feels like you're in a relationship with this person,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, am I going to be stuck with you for the rest of my life? I think you find you are. Yeah, so we better get this on and sort this out.
Yeah, I love that. As you're speaking, I'm thinking of I want to do a workshop on this, because it's so true. I've been saying to myself, I've been talking to myself loads, even more so, becoming more aware. I've been doing a lot of yoga, right? And as you know, it gets you to that place of silence, and you're just witnessing even more, like meditation. And I've been meditating a lot more as well in the last couple of years, and made it much more of a personal practice. And I've been saying the last few weeks, shall I say, I'm having this relationship with the yoga mat, right? This is what I've been saying. I've been going, oh man, I've been talking to people and hearing myself say it and go, yeah, I really feel like I'm having this like real relationship with the yoga mat, right? And as you're talking, I'm realizing that, you know, I'm having this relationship with myself on the yoga mat, yeah. and it's like, you know, I'm finding some support on the yoga mat. It's so true, isn't it? And while
I'm going to have a session with your yoga mat.
Yeah, I'm going to have a session with your yoga mat, because while I'm on there, I've been noticing how resistant I am to stuff as well, and how resistant I am to myself and the things I'm doing. So as you're speaking, anyway, that was really amusing me. I'm totally checking in. You know, checking in with myself.
I have a relationship with my guitar. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes my guitar looks at me and goes, "Do you know what? Not tonight, darling." It's like, oh. But it's all me, right? But it is kind of like, and I have that you know, relationship with all kinds of things, where my creativity, I have a relationship with my creativity. I have that relationship with myself in the gym. I talk to the weights. I talk to my weights. I go, are you going to do this for now? Are we going to do this? And the weights go, yeah, we're going to do this. So yes, you know, I actually have come to really enjoy my own company, and I make myself laugh. I make myself cry, I make myself happy, I make myself sad, and it's all because I enjoy what's going on inside me. And I think if that builds and grows, if what I do is build if what's happening inside me is a joyous place and a challenging place and an interesting place to be, if I enjoy being in the world of myself, I like being at that party, and then what more can I ask for? And then, ironically, that's a very attractive experience to be around. People find that a very attractive energy when
Exactly.
I find that. When I find someone who I see is really what can be called in their energy.
Yeah.
Basically enjoying the space of being themselves, enjoying being in their own company. It's attractive. You want to be around that person. It's very attractive.
That's self-love. You know, the name of this talk is going to be relationship with yourself, because for me, that's what I'm saying. All paths lead to self-love. And you know, that was, you know, in 2006 2007 when I shared the whole idea of the perspective that happened with the shift in awareness that I had and so on, and that I only fell in love with myself, but fell in love with the whole planet. What's also coming through to me as you say that is that as more and more individuals build on that relationship with their self, which is what I know that's what you've been pointing to in the liberated lifestyle, it's what I've been doing, it's what many people out there are pointing to.
Yeah.
But that is how we then contribute to or at least allow ourselves to become part of the evolution of something new, you know, because as more and more people have that loving relationship with themselves and enjoy that, you know, hang out with themselves and be okay in their skin, they're more energized, they're more alive, well, then you naturally want to, you know, you naturally don't want to go and harm others or harm the planet, or, you know, you naturally want to be part of something that's really supportive and community, and, you know, you naturally fall into that, that essence of, you know, unity and so on and so forth, don't you? Whether it be playing music like you do, whether it be writing a post, whether it be, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's like this thing about be the change you want to see.
Right.
And for me, that can also be, you know, be the love you want to feel.
Yeah.
That if you want to feel love in your life, feel love in your life. You know, and that's you're saying that all roads lead back to the inside. In fact, to some degree, I think it all starts from here. It all starts from inside. That if I'm looking for love, it's a bit like what's it? Muji calls it the fish in the submarine. You know,
Right.
you're surrounded by love. It's a field.
Yeah.
Just stop treading water. Just relax and float, because you know that's. So for me, that's what I'm learning, is that love is not something I have to do, achieve, create, manage, or disseminate. It's just something I have to allow. That's it. Just get out of my own way. Get out of my own ideas about myself. The less seriously I take myself, the more that love can just be there. And if I'm happy, then I'm happy. And if people then get drawn into that happiness and wish to share it, that's beautiful. And it happens with lots of my friends and fellow musicians, and people do seem to want to hang out with me. I get a lot of invitations, come and drum, come.
I'm not sure about that. I don't believe that one.
Really? As it happens, it's true. It's true.
Nice. You go on, carry on.
So I'm just saying that in terms of trying to make my life a loving life. If we tried to say, if I had love in my life, I would be happy, is exactly the same as if I had money, if I had health, if I had this. If it's all about just getting out of my own way and allowing my heart to open, being in my heart center. And that's what I do when I meditate. When I do Nada Brahma meditation, I'm just saying, here I am, and if that involves pain, so be it. If it involves fragility and vulnerability and rawness, and the sting and the cringe of life, I've decided to take that on. I'll have that. I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
That's full acceptance of all it is. Realizing that love is everywhere. Like, it's not, you know, you're not separate from it.
And love is pain. Love can be painful.
Love is love isn't always pleasing, as we said at the beginning. And you know as well, as we're talking more about the self and, you know, and the self-love and the field. And I know when we spoke the other day briefly, you know, you said about like music, food, sex, sexual connection, and when
Yes.
I threw in there laughter was the roads to ecstasy, and the connection to ecstasy.
Yeah.
And I think even when we're talking about this communication with yourself, I had a flashback to when I was on my way to being locked up one time, on my way to jail, remand center, and
Yeah.
and I remember a conversation I was having with myself, and ultimately we're always having this conversation with ourselves. It's just whether you're willing to do as we're talking about now and inviting people to do, is just to quiet down a little bit and actually listen to the conversation you're having with yourself, and I know we sort of have to wrap up now, but I think speak to that, and then we say goodbye, because I mean this is such a, for me, this is a really just a really potent, the way the dynamic of this conversation's gone is really potent, because I feel not only energized, but I see how we've gone through and meandered, and I love how it just brings it back to that fullness of it's all here right now,
Yes. It's a fundamental. It's a core issue. Love is a core issue. Fear is a core issue. Sex is a core issue. These are core issues, and everything stems from those. Everything that you could, any of the neuroses, any of the stuff that we have to work through, our issues, our stories, they all come back to core issues, and that's why we come back to ourselves and the self, because that's the core issue. Is that, and love is that, of course. So yeah, it's very interesting, very interesting. And I think it's very important that for people to actually understand that this idea of having a conversation with yourself, as though really going into the voice in my head isn't me. So you start to actually have a conversation and listen to the conversation. You say, listen to the conversation you're having with yourself from the point of, is this a healthy conversation? Am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying my own company? Am I enjoying the way I relate to myself? Regardless of whether or not you love yourself or not. I mean, we all hate things about ourselves, but allowing that to be the case is very important for me too, as well. That I'd kind of say, well, if something makes me cringe about myself, or I say something and then think, oh God, I can't believe I said that. Why did I even say that? What was I trying to prove? What was that all about? And I have regret about saying something, either to someone or to someone about someone else. And I can end up hating myself a little bit and going, oh, you idiot, you fool, I mean, I know from my experience of what I've heard people talk about themselves, people who have very little self-worth and self-esteem. And you hear people talk to themselves in a way that is shocking, but we're so used to it. People so used to people going, oh, I'm such a stupid idiot.
Yeah.
And you imagine, it's like, what if someone else said that to you and they really mean it?
Yeah.
Or like,
totally.
oh God, I'm so this.
I'm disgusting.
Yeah, I'm disgusting. I'm useless. I can't. And the way that people speak to themselves, that's where it all starts. This idea that somebody else is going, that you somehow adjust, move yourself, change yourself to fit into someone else's bubble of what they think you are, is a major misunderstanding. And that's why it's a fundamental. It's a fundamental, that why to have this opportunity now to spend 18 months or however long it's going to be to simply refine, develop my friendship with me, and to start really, and it's about loving yourself. Is not just about self-worth. It's also about going, yeah, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that, and that's okay. And if I don't have much value to offer this world, I have to live with that, because not everyone has that much to give. There are people who really feel inside themselves they have nothing to give. I have so many T-shirts and picture quotes say, "Give your gift to the world," and I often feel like I wasn't at that lesson. No one told me what my gift is to give to the world. Nobody told me that. This is what you got to do: set goals, set your goals, review your goals, revise your goals. And I said, but what? I have no idea what my goal is. I don't have. How do you find out what your goal is? How do you create meaning in your life? How do you create something that is? How do you create passion? It's like, did anyone else get that seminar? Because I missed it. All I know is everyone's now trying to seem so clear about their goals, seem so passionate and so on purpose. And I feel like I have no idea what I want to do with my life. I have no idea what I think is worth achieving. And that's not just a kind of a renunciative kind of like, hey man, it's like this is all just stuff, and in the end you just, you know, it's what's inside that you take with you. It's not about that. It's literally just kind of going, I want to contribute, and I've got a lot of insecurity about what I'm able to contribute, what is valuable. And no matter how many people say, oh man, you're so good at that, you're so good at that, you've got all the, look at what you've done, look at what you've done, and you've raised kids, and you've done this, and you form bands, and you run businesses. And I'm going to go, yeah, I get that, I get it, it's true, I have created, it's happening. But there's always a part inside of me that's going, well, is this really my gift? What is my, and that continual self-talk about finding your gift and fulfilling your goals and living the dream. Somehow, Simon, that's just become completely meaningless to me. I have no idea what my role on earth is, what I've been put here to do. All this stuff. You've been given you're here for a unique reason. No one is here by accident. Okay. Clue, please, because I don't have...
no, but you know, listen. Yeah, but what, you know, this is like what you're speaking about is, I think, I'm sure if people are listening to this call, this is something that everybody must, if they haven't, they must ponder, because, you know, I've pondered that many times. People go, yeah, you're this, you're that, the other, and I just think to myself, you know, yeah, all right, yeah, but, you know, and then you start comparing, and you start thinking, is that, I walked down the road the other day, I was like, I wrote this thing, actually, funnily enough, it's called, I'm not going to read it without, you know, it's on my phone, it was called, What's Your Meaning and Purpose? And I just wrote down all these things that people do, that we do in life, that people do in life, and I got to the bottom, I was like, is that it? Is it, you know, it was like, is that it? So, okay, I can do this, I can do that, and then what? That is it. You know, it's like, you know, and I've sort of, you know, I've dibbled and put my fingers and toes in many pies, you know, and sort of had a little, you know, check the pie out and thought, oh, all right, cool, okay, well, not much going on down there. I'm going to go and see another pie, and it just continues flowing. It just continues going on. So but you know, I just want to speak to one thing that you said there, which is that, yeah, in that love, people can sort of like dislike themselves, hate themselves, but there's something about having the awareness that you're talking about, which in that awareness really is, I'm just going to call it, just to give it a, you know, point to a name of it, but that is almost a very respectful, responsible, self-loving action, because to even bring awareness in to say, you know what, I don't know goals, purpose, this, okay, I am a bit hard on myself sometimes, you know what, I don't like myself sometimes, and then saying, but that's okay, and this is, and seeing what arises from that place of because that brings a silence, doesn't it, Mark? And like what comes from there is actually almost allowing yourself to detach from all of this noise and, you know, goals, meaning, you should be this, you should be that, etc., etc. And it actually allows in, I feel, a very I'm going to say self-loving space. So there, in that place of being enough, everything's okay. You know, that seems to really, I don't know if I'm just trying to sort of make it sound nice, but it feels that I would very much honor somebody or respect them if they're even in that place of going, you know what, I don't know, and it's okay.
Yes, I mean, what it comes down to for me is, I know that Anthony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs, one of which is significance, the need for significance.
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of the energy or the motive behind this idea of finding your purpose, finding your gift, being on purpose, being on cause, all that kind of language, living your dream, giving your gift, that all comes down to as a core issue of significance. I need to be seen.
Yeah, I need to be seen.
I need to be seen. So if I'm purposeless, if I'm just being here for no other reason other than simply to exist, like the enlightened ones, where they say you just become a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
Can I be okay with that space? Can I be okay with insignificance? Can I be okay with not being a somebody? And that is my struggle. That is my struggle. I am a competitive person. I am a person who needs to be seen, needs to be recognized, needs to be I don't know about admired or adored or such, but just definitely to be acknowledged in terms of, so that's the energy behind this calling, this purpose thing. It's like, why do you want a purpose? Why do you want to have something you do? So, oh, you want to be a tarot reader, or you want to do runes, or you want to, maybe I'll be this shaman, or that shaman, or this person, or that person, or somehow, where's my niche? How am I going to fit in? When I have my picture on those brochures at the Wellbeing Festival, what's my shtick? What is it going to, what's my little USP? You know? And I find myself going, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a therapist or a thought leader or this. I just want to feel joyous.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, but that's boom. I mean, that's booming. That is it.
So for me, it's this to recognize that, okay, I need significance. I need to feel like I've left a legacy. I need to feel like I've made a difference so that I get seen. It's not because if I make a difference, you know, this idea of leaving the world a richer place than you found it. Why? You think the world gives a shit whether you leave it richer or poorer? The world will be here without you. In 100 years, we will all be dust. You know, and this sense of self-importance, this sense of I'm significant, I make a difference, my life means something, on this tiny little dot and this corner of the galaxy and this tiny little end of the universe, we are just nothing. We are just particles. We are just bacteria. We're nothing. And that, for me, there's a purpose, to become happy with that insignificance. Ironically, and
can I be okay with being nobody? Can I be okay with being a speck?
Can I just be okay with just not being anything?
Yeah.
And if I'm nothing, what is there? What is left?
Yeah.
If all the layers of the onion are peeled and open up the middle and there's just nothing.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Are you okay to just have been and then not be?
Yeah. Well, okay. So now we're pointing to actually a refusal to die. Right? You know,
I haven't considered that, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm pointing to, because you're mirroring back to me. I mean, I call it sometimes the fame and fortune bug, and I say that like half of our species, especially in the Western world, have been indoctrinated with this need. Everything you just said, I don't need to repeat it all. You said it beautifully. You know, this need to be seen. Yeah. And look, you know, I was an actor for 15 years. You know, that was like deep. I mean, even when I was younger, I wanted to be seen, entertain people, play. I wanted people to come and watch me. I was at school plays, you know, I was in drama. Then I was an actor for 15 years. I wanted to be on the big stage. I wanted to be the big famous actor. I wanted to be on the red carpet. I wanted the Oscar, you know, and, you know, it's not changed. You know, it's moved, and I'm caught in that space that you just said of wanting to make a difference in the world, wanting to create a new world, a new planet, or not a new world, a new planet, but a new humanity that communicates differently, that loves the world, that lives more sustainably, that communicates more authentically. I want people to watch
killing each other.
I want people to watch my videos. I want them to have millions of hits so that people enjoy these conversations. It's like I put up photos because I want people to, like, you know, feel that they can live a life of their joy and meaning and purpose. I'm in that shit, man.
Absolutely, me too. I want to be a rock star, so I'm getting up there and performing on stage, writing my songs, and yeah, see me, recognize me, appreciate me, acknowledge me, love me.
Yeah.
Hey man, I mean, you know, that's, you know, 50 years. I'll be 50 in about 3 weeks, and I'm just getting the hang of it, just starting to get the hang of this thing, and it's okay. I'm forgiving myself to be needing of recognition. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're okay.
I'm glad you allowed that for me today as well. I think I'm gonna hold on to that one a little bit longer.
Okay.
Amazing. Truly amazing. Yeah, well, lovely. I love going on this journey, and I love going deeper to the layers of what it means for you and I, because ultimately that's why we come together today, you know, to look at ourselves, to get the mirror reflection, and to dive deep. And these conversations for everybody watching is, you know, have these conversations yourself if you choose to, but you don't have to either. I have no agenda or outcome of where this goes. I just love meeting wonderful people. So Mark, I just want to say thank you so much for showing up today, showing up, in my view, very real, very authentic, and and also giving me a beautiful perspective, and not just about us agreeing on everything, although we see eye to eye on some stuff, but we ultimately know that makes absolutely no difference anyway. And we could just share this time and allow others to enjoy it should they choose to.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely. Really great experience, and I hope people enjoyed it.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much. Do you feel like just playing a little outro, and then we end it on a little outro?
I could do. What have I got here?
Then we get to be seen a little bit longer.
Okay. Okay. Just a little bit of nice music. Oh, where am I? Put my pick down.
Awesome. Take care, everybody, and enjoy, share if you enjoyed it, and wherever you are in the world, on the planet, sending you love, your unique manifestation of life creation. And as Mark said, we're a speck, we won't be here long, so enjoy your life. Lots of love, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, Simon. Bye, guys.